I'm like, that's who I am. I do that. I do stuff. I act, I move, I do. I know how to do because I never waited for anybody to give me permission or say that it was, oh, no, wait for your turn. No, no, we're not ready for you yet. Oh, you can't be a girl. Really? Because sorry, I just did that. It's already done. You want me to do it again? Here, I can do it with a twist on it. Want to see that? I mean, so I've just left people in my dust, or I work circles around people, but I didn't realize that's what I was doing. That's just how I've had to move because there's a block or a stop at every point. So I just move. And I didn't think I figured that out till you just asked me that. Like, oh, that is how I show up in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Always
Yeah.
learning.
Question. Thank you for letting me elaborate. Was that what you asked? I don't even know.
There we go. Yes. Dr. Self, how about you?
Yeah, well, I know. I think I was figuring some stuff out too while you were talking. um, I was thinking about how much of my I was thinking back to another episode we did where I talked about my how so much of my struggle was internal and not with the external world, because there was so much silence around gender and sexuality, just like no talking about any kind of gender outside of male or female, and when I was growing up, and and really not any kind of sexuality outside of heterosexuality either in the 70s and 80s, very much anyway. And so a lot of what I was pushing up against was just that silence. And so when I think back about um, when I think back on my childhood and what I found on the courts and on the fields, it was a place where I didn't feel silent in my body. I felt like alive and present, and like I could be fully, yeah, like fully me. And I didn't have to speak it. I didn't have to say anything to anybody. I didn't have to articulate what I was trying to be. I could just go out and do the thing, show up and run hard and hustle and, you know, knock tables over in games because I'm going after a ball or whatever. But whereas I just felt like that I couldn't show up those same ways in life, and my life felt really silent, and and I think there's still times where when I'm trying to get at the things that are happening for me, I fall on that silence, and it's hard for me to even articulate what's happening because of that same thing. So it was just really interesting. It was interesting hearing you talk and noticing that was happening, and thinking back on that. And one of the other things though that I think I learned from sports was that paying attention to what everybody else was doing, which is something I did in my family, because I was the way I kind of survived what was going on in my family. Paying attention to what everybody else was doing helped me understand where I could make my unique contribution. And so it helped me think about, how do I be part of this team? And so I think that has really served me well in my life, is like, to pay attention to what are the things that are needed here, and how can I add that? How can I be a value added here? And so that's one of the things that I really learned from being on teams, all these teams, and figuring out that I can be useful and necessary and important in lots of different ways, and it doesn't have to be any one particular way.
Yes.
So good. So good. All of those. And so I think everything that both of you said, I would agree. I learned those lessons too. And I think another one that's really important, and I think about this now since I've been in leadership roles. Well, I feel like I've been a leader, you know, as captain of my team, high school, college, even when I started playing women's basketball. or adult basketball I was captain to. I never asked to be a leader, but I always led. And I think the reason I was always chosen to be a leader is because I was always there first and I stayed late. And I made sure I was doing what I needed to do between practice. So if we were off season, I was running, I was shooting, I was working hard. And so people knew if I was on the court, I'm not a yeller, but if I was on the court telling you, man, you got to do that. Come on, you got this, you got this. I wasn't going to ask you to do what I was not willing to do. So I feel like I always tried to lead by example. So if I asked you to work harder, I was also going to work harder. If I asked you to get faster, I believe me, in the sprints, I was going to run my fastest, even if I had cramps. So I had like major endometriosis through college, but I was determined to be out front in every sprint, lead by example. And so I think one of the most important lessons that I think I learned from me is to lead by example, to model. And then even when I became a leader in education spaces, okay, I'm not going to ask you all to do as teachers what I'm not willing to do myself. And I think too often people ask folks to do what they can't do or they're not willing to do. And so I think that modeling is really important. Another lesson that I learned is really to adapt and adjust, which I think Dr. Self, you kind of talked about that, but Fernell, you did too, the chameleon. Like I'm the chameleon too. And, we talked a little bit between sessions about, I got to travel with sports all over Europe. So I was in 13 countries by the time I was 15 years old. Every country we went to had a different language, a different set of rules. And so I have learned as an athlete to figure out the rules of the game. So I will sit in different spaces and just watch people and watch how they interact and watch who talks to who, how do the genders talk to each other, older, younger. And I learned that as an athlete. I learned the rules of the game. So you can only break them if you understand them. If you don't understand them, like you figure out how to get right to the edge, right? Like right to the edge of what's a foul. Okay, I'm gonna get right to the edge of that. But you can only do that if you actually understand the rules really well. So I learned to apply that to every other area of my life too, is okay, how do I figure out the rules for this game, the business office, the boardroom, and all of that, those lessons I learned being on courts and playing a number of different sports, as I had to figure out, okay, I'm on the softball field now, those rules are different than the basketball court, which is different than the soccer field. And so being able to navigate and be a chameleon, like you said, Fernell, is powerful. I feel as comfortable in the governor's office as I do on a basketball court.
Right.
Because I've had to always navigate and negotiate between different spaces. So transitioning from that, if you could think of your greatest success as an athlete and your greatest failure, how would you describe those? Fernell, what do you think for you?
Transitioning. I love transitioning. That's another great lesson, I learned from that. I thank you for reminding about that. That's the change. We're stuck. We don't like change. I love it. I need to change. I don't feel like I'm growing or moving or being authentic when I'm not in transition or changing about something. But I was just thinking about that for success and failure. And my failure was trying to make I was cheating, trying to make my gymnastics look like somebody else's. So about the time when I was graduating from high school and trying to transition, I think it was middle school to high school, one of those, and Olga Korbut, and gymnastics was just coming on the scene, and Nadia Comaneci, and everybody, everybody's talking about these Russian gymnasts. And so that it gave a picture of what gymnastics is supposed to look like. And again, do I look like that picture? Not even close, and can't even try. And so when I say cheating, is like that was part of my assimilate. Okay, let me get a ponytail. Okay, let me get that. Let me try walking like her. Let me try. I'm like, and it was just the ridiculousness of trying to cheat, which goes back to my little girl. How come that word hurt me? So you're cheating. Why would I want but I like mine. I like my style. And gymnastics is such an individualized sport. Nobody's gymnastics looks the same. But here I am trying to make mine look like, these little girls that don't have my body, my muscles, my strength, my nothing. And so I'd say that was my failure of me trying to do that so hard. and the success of turning it around to being my fullest self outside of, you know, athletic, gymnastics, school work, just in the world, having to be in such a defined role or sport or image that I completely, turn the other way. And so in my teaching, that's how I show up. The girls who are in my PE class and the fire I put in them by leading with that example. I mean, the I know 5th grade boys, 8th grade boys, 11th grade boys, and they clamor to get to me because I know what I'm talking about. I can beat them in push-ups. I can beat them in shots. I beat them at wall ball and foursquare. And your goal is to beat me. You're supposed to beat me, but I'm not letting you win because you're a child. I'm teaching you how to come on, raise your game up, and they appreciate that. They clamor to that. I got high school boys still come on, Miss Miller. Let me climb that rope. Let me do those push-ups. So how I showed up so big and strong in myself is from the failure, from trying to be like somebody else's, sports or this or that or what. I'm like, I can't hide. I only get to be me. So let me be that best, fullest me I can be. And oh, if that's a little too much for you, sorry. You got to be more for yourself too. So then you can receive and handle me right here. I'm not going to shrink anymore for you. So let's go. And just again, that's a reason why I went back to elementary school. I want our youngest learners to learn that from the get-go. Come on, no shrinking. I don't care that you're 5. Come on, kill me at some foursquare. Let's go. I got you. Whoa, whoa. You should see me out at recess. They're all lined up. And then when they beat me, oh my gosh, the whole playground erupts. I beat the Miller. Ah, the whole kingdom comes down when they beat the Miller. So I'm like, you earned that. I can't even say that. I'm like, go ahead, go ahead, cheer the whole place. So that's what, gotta be you. Gotta.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Mhm.
You can almost enjoy it when they beat you too, because it's
I,
like,
I can. I'm like, yes. I'm cheering them. I'm like, darn, but yes.
great, good for you, because it's such a
Oh,
it's a huge
the
feat when you
joy.
beat me.
Woo, 5th grade boy beat the Miller on the playground. That's a week's worth of celebrating right
It is.
there. Bragging rights. Woo!
Woohoo!
I come hard. So
It's very funny. um, I think that one of the I think the biggest failure that I probably had was letting my confidence be taken from me. Um, and it took a lot of confidence on my part to stand up and like do all the things I did as a kid, playing in the face of all those boys and all of that stuff. I was teased and ridiculed and all of, playing baseball all those years, and for all sorts of reasons, and then telling people I'm going to get a scholarship out of this small town. People were like, "What are you talking about? That's never going to happen." And to just continue on with that, and to do that and to leave. And then when I got to college, I let my coach and that experience just steal my confidence, and it really changed how I felt about myself and about the game, and it's been challenging to recoup that. And yeah, so I think that's the thing that I regret the most. Um, and there are lots of reasons why that happened, and also it's the thing that I'm saddest about. But the thing that I take from athletics overall, two things. One is perseverance. So, and that remains. That got me through my PhD. I mean, I would not, I have other things going on. Like I have an ADHD brain. There's no way I could have written a dissertation if I hadn't had the athletic training that I have, because that's what got me through. That's what helped me understand how I could even plan that out and write a thing that big, is it just felt like it was impossible. So I know that that got me through that. And then the other thing is this idea of fundamentals, coming back to um, that that fundamentals are so important, that doing the basic things of any, breaking something down into its components and doing those things well and doing them consistently is really what makes somebody excellent at something. And when I think about what I've been trying to do around my own work around racial justice, and I see how white people in general respond to racial injustice, one of the things I get tired of about myself and about other white people is that we have no consistency. We have no ability to be patient. We have no ability to just be in time and in space and in the moment with what is happening with our history, with what we've done, with all the pain, with all of that, and then do things consistently over time to change what we have done. And so when I decided that this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, I decided, okay, I'm going to do these things and I'm going to do them consistently. I'm going to figure out what I can do, and I'm going to do it every single day in everything I do, over and over and over again. And if I mess up, I'm going to catch it and I'm going to do it right, and do it again over and over and over. And I'm going to keep learning. And so that's how I think about this all the time. It's fundamentals, fundamentals, fundamentals.
That's awesome. I think it's hard. Greatest failure, there's probably what other people may perceive as a failure, and then there's how I see the world. I think my greatest challenge is that I am harder on myself than other people are, even than coaches are. If I make a mistake, I will beat myself up for it. I'm getting better as I get older and like checking myself, but I can remember in college, if I missed a free throw or missed a layup, I would play that back in my head like for days later. And I'm like, the game is over, honey. You can't change that. So stop playing it back over your head. And I know that I apply that to other things in my life. Like if I make mistakes at work or like messed up a lesson plan, I would beat myself up for that and play it back in my head again. And so I would say for me, that's probably my greatest challenge from athletics, is just that I am my own worst critic, which is hard. And I mean, it taught me to always seek for excellence too. So when I make a mistake, I'm going to do everything I can to make it right. And then there's another big kind of failure though too. So I went from playing Division III basketball. So I did not go to Cal. I went to Bryn Mawr College, which is the sister school to Princeton, which is not a school you go to if you're going to be a big time basketball player. But I ended up getting a tryout for two tryouts for the WNBA at 28 years old with 3 little kids. Having not played for a year, I took care of a little girl and had taken a year off of basketball and got 2 tryouts. And I didn't get chosen. So I trained really hard and got 2 tryouts and I didn't get chosen. And a lot of people would probably say, man, that's a big failure. No. In my mind, I mean, how many 28-year-olds how many people, period, get invited to a tryout? How many 28-year-olds? I was the oldest woman that year to get invited to tryout. And I didn't make it, but I'm just happy I got chosen. But the greater gift, and this is my greatest, I think, success, is I got seen there by a coach and got to go play in Mexico with an Olympic. She was the very first Olympian to play for the United States. She was my coach when I was 30. I got to go to Mexico and play against their Olympic team. And that is my greatest success. Now we got killed. The American team got slaughtered. It was ugly. It was ugly. So if you've ever been to Mexico City, it's in the mountains. And so as athletes, you know this, that playing on like flatlands and playing in the mountains, like what your body needs a couple of weeks to get. We did not have the couple of weeks. We got off a plane. We had one day to practice.
Oh no.
So we had 10 players who had never played together. 10 players, and half our team played for the University of Mexico, spoke only Spanish. Half our team were 5 women from the United States. I was the only one who spoke both Spanish and English.
Oh my gosh.
And we got one day to practice before we had to play against the Mexican Olympic team. So I decided in my head, I was like, okay, I'm just not going to look stupid. Like, this is not going to be pretty, but I'm determined. So we get on the court the first game. We had to play them 4 times. We get on the court the first time, and the star player, Mexico, y'all. So I think about Mexicans, little people. So I'm sorry. I know that's a stereotype, but I've been to Mexico lots. It's pretty real, pretty typical. Their star player was 6'7", and she was 19 years old. So I am 30. I am not 6'7", and I have to guard her.
Oh my God.
And it's like David and Goliath, y'all. I'm looking at this woman like, okay, she is not going to make me look stupid. She is not going to make me. And I was like, right now, we are not going to win this game, but I'm determined this girl is not going to make me look stupid. And I held her to 4 points, and I had 12 points.
Yes.
We got killed.
I won.
We got killed. Our team got killed.
Yes.
But I felt like that is the biggest win of my life right here on this basketball court in Mexico City.
Yes. Erin. Absolutely.
So that is my oh, Fernell's looking for my soundtrack.
Oh, dang! I keep making the wrong song. Here it is. There it is. Here it is. I'm just playing. Go ahead. 28 years old, 3 kids going to the hoop. Mexico City holding it to 4 points. Erin Jones. Shoot. That's some success right there.
Oh my gosh. So anyway, that's my story. And let's finish it out with what, as you think about all of these moves that we have made as women in athletics, as people in athletics who've had everything thrown at us, how has that, let's finish out by sharing, how has that shaped how you move through this moment in time, through this pandemic moment, through all the racial injustice, through all of it? How has athletics moved you? How does it influence how you think about and move through this moment in time?
Being a forerunner. I'm one of those forerunner women that made a way when there wasn't a way. The way was blocked. The way was not even, there wasn't even leagues, there wasn't varsity, there wasn't room, there wasn't practice, there wasn't lights, there wasn't uniform, all of that, which can feel like what stepping into even talking about race. And that's why I made the field guide for racial reality. It's like you got to know what playing field you're stepping into to be able to start the conversation, move the conversation, hold the conversation, have the conversation, recover from the conversation, whatever it is. And don't be afraid to be that forerunner. Everybody holds back, stays quiet, looks around, who's going to say it, who's going to speak. Like that bravery, that forerunner athlete that I was is the forerunner person that I show up to be and model for kids. Again, like you said, Erin, I can't ask anybody to do what I'm not willing to do. So I'm always going to step up. I'm my hands up. All right. I'm going to show up in this way first. So other people can show up how they need to. Other people can raise their hand. Other people can step forward. Other people can speak their truth in the room. And just, I'm so thankful for that experience to be a forerunner athlete. And in gymnastics, that forerunner is the first routine that the judges get to practice judging on before everybody else goes. And so I just receive that role. I step into it, and I encourage everybody else be the forerunner.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah,
so good.
Yeah. I think that who I am is, and how culture has interacted with me. I've always been in these like in betweens, like in between a lot of privilege and then a lot of challenges, or a lot of places where I haven't been privileged. And so I've experienced both and straddled both of those spaces my whole life. And and lived in the in-betweens is kind of how I talked about it. And I think that it's an odd place to be. It's not a, it's sometimes it's difficult, sometimes it's easy to be in that space, but it gives me a really unique perspective, and I think it makes me a bridge builder a lot of times, and I think that that's the place that I see myself occupying right now, is being a bridge builder and being of service, and that's how I think about where I am and what I'm doing, and then I keep coming back to what I keep talking about, which is fundamentals and resting.
That's so good.
So good.
So good. Yeah, as I think about this particular moment in time, you know, one of the reasons I was able to run for statewide office is because I had been a high level athlete, and I knew how to fall down and get back up. I knew how to work hard. I was running against a man. Okay, man, little man. And it's so funny because I think about this all the time. A lot to figure out how to get better. I've never studied my opponent. I know where I need to get better. So I've never spent any time studying my opponent. I study my own game, and I figure if I can be the best, that's how I'm going to compete. And that was what I did when I ran for office. And I lost by 1 point against a man who'd been political for 20 years. And that's how I got into this consulting gig, because I lost. It propelled me into my best season of life. And so I think one of the things how I'm moving through this moment in time is realizing that loss is not anything. Loss is just part of life.
Nothing.
And I mean, this whole pandemic is about, there's a lot of loss, and that's part of life. And so how do you pivot? And Fernell talked about this. You know, you got to be able to transition. You got to understand the rules of the game, right? And so the pandemic hit, I lost my consulting work, and I'm like, okay, what do I do now? Pivot, right?
Yes.
All three of us grew up in a time when we couldn't just watch video about the games, the teams we were playing against. Like now they're all about watching video about the team you're about to. We didn't have that benefit. You just showed up in the court, and whoever you showed up to play, you had to play. Well, that's the pandemic. We don't have videos to prepare us for how to respond to the pandemic. We had to just, trust our gut and move and trust that we're enough. We are enough, and just move as if we are enough, and try stuff out and let it fail. And okay, wait, she's lefty. Okay, now I need to cut that left side off then.
Yep, that's right.
That's the pandemic. And I think because we've had to learn to adapt and adjust, I am really good at adapting and adjusting in a heartbeat. I got to pivot, right? And I'm always ready. I'm always in my stance. I'm always ready to adjust and adapt for whatever. And I think that's the most important lesson that I've learned, and that I carry through this moment in time. So I know this has been a long one, y'all, but thanks for being with us. And we will see you next time.
To find Fernell Miller, look for her at The Root of Us on Facebook and Instagram, as well as LinkedIn, and check out her book, You Are Here, Field Guide for Racial Reality, on the website.
If you want to reach Dr. Jen Self, you can find them on LinkedIn or at brick13.com.
And if you're looking for Erin Jones, you can find her on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. You can also purchase a copy of her book she co-authored, Thrive, on Amazon. Until next time,
keep talking
about all the things.
Yay!
Yes, we did it. Okay. Awesome. That didn't take too much.
Oh my God.
y'all.